She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She didn't even argue. She just stopped waiting. And somehow, that was the end. Anna wasn't the kind of person who stayed where she felt unseen. At least, that's what she believed. She had standards, a life of her own, enough self-awareness to walk away when something felt wrong. And that's why loving Mark felt safe in the beginning. He wasn't intense, wasn't unpredictable. He was steady, the kind of man who didn't overwhelm you, but made you feel grounded. He noticed small things, the way she hesitated before saying something honest, the way she smiled when she talked about her goals. He asked questions, and he listened, not just to respond, but to understand. That's what made her stay. Not perfection, just presence. The shift didn't come suddenly. It never does. It came quietly, through things that didn't seem important at first. A reply that came later than usual. A conversation that ended too quickly. Moments where he said the right words, but wasn't really there. Anna noticed, but she softened it. He's just tired. He has a lot going on. He'll come back to himself. Because the alternative was heavier. It meant asking something she didn't want to face. What if he already had, and this was it now? So she adjusted. Not in obvious ways, in quiet ones. She stopped repeating things he didn't hear, stopped sharing details unless he asked, stopped expecting reactions that no longer came naturally. And slowly, she became easier to love, less demanding, less expressive, less herself. Not because she wanted to, but because it felt like the only way to keep things stable.
Mark didn't think of himself as distant. If anything, he thought he was holding things together. Work had been heavier than usual. Deadlines that didn't move, pressure that followed him home. But that wasn't the part he talked about. The part he didn't say out loud was that a year ago, everything had almost fallen apart for him. A failed project, a moment where he felt like he wasn't enough. Since then, something in him changed. He became more careful, more contained, less expressive, not because he stopped caring, but because caring started to feel risky. And without realizing it, he stopped showing up emotionally in the same way. Not intentionally, just gradually, until it became normal. One evening, they sat across from each other at dinner. No argument, no tension, just silence that felt slightly too long. Mark checked his phone between bites. Anna watched him, not with anger, but with a kind of quiet awareness. "Do you feel like we've changed?" she asked. Her voice was calm, careful. Mark shrugged lightly. "I mean, this is normal, right? Things settle." Settle. Anna nodded. But inside, that word didn't feel neutral. It felt like something was being reduced, like something meaningful was being slowly replaced by something easier. And for the first time, she didn't try to convince herself otherwise. A few days later, she had an important presentation. It mattered, not because it would change everything, but because it was hers, something she worked for, something she cared about. She didn't need a big gesture, just something small. "Wish me luck tomorrow," she said. Mark smiled briefly. "You'll do great." The next morning, she checked her phone. Nothing. She told herself he was busy. During the day, still nothing. After the presentation, her hands were slightly shaking. It went well, better than she expected, and for a moment, she reached for her phone. Instinct, to share it, to feel seen. But then she paused, because something in her already understood. If he wanted to be part of this moment, he would have been. When she got home, Mark was on the couch, scrolling, relaxed. "How did it go?" he asked, without looking up. And that was it. Not the question, but the way it was asked, like it didn't really matter what the answer would be. And in that moment, everything became clear. It wasn't that he forgot, it's that it didn't stay important long enough. And for the first time, she didn't protect him from that truth. That night, Anna sat alone in the kitchen. No distractions, no noise, just clarity. She thought about all the time she waited for him to text first, for him to notice something she didn't say out loud, for him to show up emotionally without being asked. And suddenly, it all shifted. She wasn't waiting for him. She was waiting for a feeling, for the version of him that made her feel chosen. And more than that, she was waiting for herself, for the moment she would finally admit, this isn't enough. This isn't what love is supposed to feel like. This feels like effort without response. And in that moment, she stopped negotiating with reality. She stopped trying to make it make sense. She just accepted it. The next morning looked exactly the same. Same kitchen, same light, same routine. But something was different. Not outside, inside her. Mark said something casual. She answered, calm, present, but without that subtle reaching, that quiet hope he had gotten used to. And that's when he felt it. Not immediately, but enough to notice. Something was missing. "Are you okay?" he asked. This time he looked at her, really looked. And for a second, there was something there. Awareness, maybe even concern. But it came too late to change anything. Anna met his eyes, and for the first time, she wasn't searching for something more, wasn't hoping to see who he used to be. She just saw him, clearly, as he was. "Yes," she said softly, "I am." And she meant it, because she wasn't waiting anymore. Not for his attention, not for his effort, not for him to open up in ways he no longer knew how to. And the truth was, she didn't feel empty, she felt steady. Because sometimes, peace doesn't come from fixing something. It comes from finally seeing it clearly. And the real question is, have you ever stayed, not because you had to, but because you weren't ready to admit it was already over?